National Party's spokesman for agriculture thinks that this latest relief package from Damien O'Connor has barely been a drop in the bucket, and he joins me now from Wellington. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Great to be on your show.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Nice to have you in a visual sense now. We've had a few yarns in the past.
Yes, I know. It's good to be, almost at the same set. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Todd, what is your thoughts generally around the drought response? There's been a lot of money, but has it been executed to go to the right place effectively?
Well, I think this particular $500,000 program, I think, is hugely inadequate. And actually, as I've made the point publicly, I think is a little bit of a slap in the face of the farmers that are struggling in and particularly in Hawke's Bay at a sort of once in a generational dry spell, right? And the idea that actually what they need above all else is someone to turn up, however well-meaning, with a clipboard and suggest what they should be doing to manage their farm better and how they can plan for the next season, is an insult to the experience and tradition that'll be sitting on that farm. I mean, the landed price of bales from the South Island, I understand, is over $150. I mean, what they need is feed. It's hugely expensive, and I think actually there's a case for actually some direct support to be able to help them through it. As I say, not an administrative box-ticking exercise, which farmers intuitively know anyway.
Yeah, okay, this isn't our first rodeo when it comes to droughts in New Zealand, Todd, and especially, of course, other adverse events such as flooding. Do you believe that there's a way of being able to improve the coordination of adverse events, full stop, and how we collaborate together as an industry?
Well, actually, I think the sector does it quite well, to be fair. What I've noticed, when I've listened to the people who are involved in the Rural Support Trust, often they are individuals that have been around the particular area for a long time. They have a huge amount of experience. And when you listen to what they want a faster declaration. There's nearly always the sense that it's a week or two too late, and that the interface back into Wellington and to MPI is a bit clunky, and they could, I think, get a bit more support there. But really at the core of it for me is acknowledging the fact that the people who are on the ground, who are nearly always farmers themselves and are deeply connected with that particular region, they are the best ones to be able to support and assist. And as long as you've got a culture in MPI of engaging from a culture of wanting to listen and support as opposed to be sort of dictating from the centre in compliance, then I think the model can work. Has worked reasonably well, but I think it can work better.
Yeah, certainly. What about in response to Damien's comments that basically people should have budgeted earlier?
Well, that's there's aspects of what Damien does that I think reasonably solid. The guy's been around a while. He's been involved in the Labour Party for 20-something years. Look, I worked with him when he was a minister, and I used to work at Zespri, 15 years ago. So he's been around the traps. As you say, it's not his first rodeo either. So the idea that he comes up with comments like that, he lets himself down bluntly, because there is an implicit criticism in that farmers have largely been passive passengers over the last few months as their environment has dried off. And nothing could be further from the truth. And if you've actually connected with farmers and if you listen to farmers, that's the feedback you get. They live this every day. They can sense when their soil moisture's heading the wrong direction. It's what they do. It's the skills that they have. And so the idea that somehow they've found themselves in this position because they haven't planned properly, it's like his version of Deborah Russell's view that most of small businesses that are struggling under COVID, it's really their fault because they didn't have strong balance sheets. I mean, sometimes you've got to wonder which planet these guys are on.
Yeah, no, I want to jump over to the Crown Irrigation investments that was part of the national government. And say, for instance, in Hawke's Bay, where you had the Toki catchment and the Ruataniwha proposal that was on the table, that obviously got taken off the table under this coalition government. How are we able to progress with this and ensure that we have that long-term security of water storage? Do you think the tables have turned? Do you think people like Shane Jones are really starting to get what's needed?
Yeah, I think they are starting to realise how important it is. Again, without being too partisan, we did have a framework in place. It was up to $400 million in terms of investment, seed funding, and a couple of proposals got off the ground in the last term. And these guys, the first thing they do was cancel it. So it's nice that they're now starting to get with the program. But I think there's a more serious question, Sarah, and that is let's open a conversation with New Zealand around how strategic our water is, not only for storage for productive catchments, but for potable water, for renewable electricity generation. It is our country's competitive advantage. And I think we have been woefully lacking in bringing a strategic approach to how we store water over successive governments. This isn't just a partisan issue that I'm taking with this government. I think that you can criticise previous governments as well. And I think one of the opportunities of coming through the last few months and seeing the reliance that this country has on food and fibre is that we can have another look at the importance of water and start reframing the debate.
Do you think
it's absolutely critical, and it's something I'm very personally passionate in, and it's one thing I want to achieve while I'm in this Parliament, to be actually progress water storage at a strategic level for the benefit of successive generations.
Is there an opportunity to pause and be able to discuss it when it comes to water quality as well? What are you hearing inside about, because everybody's worrying, they have no idea what's happening with this policy announcement and where it's going to land. It's all very uncertain and farmers are hating uncertainty right now.
I'm hearing mixed messages, to be honest. I'm hearing some say that actually because we're in the middle of the COVID process, we should pause. And I'm hearing others say prepare for an announcement in the next couple of weeks. I think progressing fundamental reforms around freshwater and biodiversity and some of these farm plan changes at a regional council at this point in time of where we are as a country, I think is totally inappropriate. Now, I know that some will hear that and say, oh, there we go, there's the National Party saying water quality doesn't matter. Of course it matters. Every farmer knows it matters. Most people have no idea of the effort that's gone on farm, regardless of type, over the last 5 or 10 years to get our heads around what we can do to improve and demonstrate that we are. So I really take issue with the fact that, firstly, the sector isn't engaged in this because they are, and they're making real difference. And secondly, we absolutely need to manage farming within limits in a way that means we can still farm and still produce the world's best food for the world. I mean, we've got to get the balance right here, and I think Parker hasn't.
And on that note around balance that you just said with Parker, in terms of being able to export our food and fibre around the world and maintain our environmental standards here at home, there's a lot of pressure I'm hearing from my sources internally for him to drop one of his portfolios.
Well, there'd be he could give environment up to someone who's got a better balance and perspective, because bluntly, I think that he's a bit of a dog with a bone on this, and he's trying to rewrite wrongs as he saw them from the last time he was minister. And I think that's a poor driver of public policy and a poor driver of attitude. And you can see it actually with how he engages with the sector. He's not engaged from a position of mutual respect or reciprocity. It's more around, actually, I know what's best and I'm going to force it through. And those days are over. So if he's going to give up one, he should give up environment. And keep our trade open.
Yeah, but really, is he that will take a lot to get that bone out of his mouth, to be fair. I think he'd drop trade. Who would step into trade? Because the Associate Minister in Trade is not very well known.
No, not at all. Well, of course, we have got a superb candidate in Todd Muller. I mean, he was the Trade Minister who pulled TPP together. I'm not sure whether you'd jump up and with joy if he heard me suggesting him to be the Trade Minister for this government. But, you do get to a point, and I think this is going to come in sharp focus over the next little while, that what the country needs now is the best people and the best thinking. And perhaps the government needs to realise that it's not the harbinger of all wisdom. And to get through this, they need to look across a wider group of people, perhaps in terms of helping some of their thinking.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, National Party's spokesman for Agriculture, Todd Muller.
This is Sarah's Country.